It's Tuesday, so why not an uplifting story? It's easy to think, you know what, the world's going to hell if you watch too much news. So be careful about that, because there are incredible things happening all around us. This is a story about a man who lives in Bethany, that's west of Portland. It's about his refusal to give up when his life of fitness vanished in an instant. It's also about community and faith and love. At 61 years old, Ricky Gray is one of the fittest people in America. He just returned from the Ironman World Championships in France, where he qualified to race in the 60 to 64-year-old category. A full Ironman is one of the most grueling events in sports, with a 2.4-mile swim followed immediately by a 112-mile bike ride, followed immediately by a run of 26.2 miles. Yes, a full marathon. And it all has to be finished in 17 hours or athletes are pulled off the course. Ricky easily beat the deadline.
Ricky Gray. Well done, Ricky.
But it was hard. It was harder than I thought. It really was. It was a long, brutal day. Swim, bike, run. Sure was.
Still, here he was running easily with me just 4 days after that race. But it was more than his lack of stiffness that impressed me.
You know, if I hadn't heard your story, I would not believe that you almost died.
Yeah.
And that you can run with a pelvis that's being held together by
a bunch of pins.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. This is Ricky's surgically repaired pelvis. It all happened very quickly.
In 2019, October, I was changing a light bulb at my office, and ladder buckled, and I fell 10 feet onto a concrete floor. Didn't think I had broke anything because, I didn't feel that much pain.
But in fact, he'd shattered the pelvis. It required a 5-hour surgery at Legacy Emmanuel Hospital, and then a chest x-ray discovered a blood clot in each lung. His wife Sharon remembers her fear at the hospital as Ricky's condition kept getting worse.
It was really scary, and I knew enough about blood clots that they could kill you. So it was really scary. We reached out to all of our friends and family, and people were praying for surgery anyway, but it was like SOS. We really need the prayers.
Even as their friends responded, Ricky sank further toward death as liquid filled his lungs.
And at that point, the trauma doctor, Dr. Barney, she went to Sharon and she said, I have a toolbox. I have used all the tools in my toolbox, and I can't do anything else. Your husband has less than 5% chance of living.
Doctors put him on an ECMO machine, something that would cycle blood out of his body, put oxygen into it, and then send it back into the body. He was on that in a coma for a week. In the deep of night, Sharon, who has friends in distant countries, felt alone and afraid.
But I remember it was 2:30 in the morning, and I remember feeling so alone. He was hurting, he was so uncomfortable, and I just remember thinking, God, I just feel so alone. And my phone just started just dinging, 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 and it was all these WhatsApp with people overseas that were letting me know they were praying. So it gave me such peace and hope, because it was like, you may feel, my army here in the States might be asleep, but I got another whole army that's rising. And that gave me a lot of comfort. And I think our faith is what enabled us to make it through this.
Eventually, he was able to get out of the hospital bed, and then his grueling rehab began. He'd already completed one Ironman before his fall, but that fitness and more was gone.
It was like having a toddler, because he had to relearn to do everything. He had to learn to brush his hair, and I remember just gain the energy of putting his hand up on his hair, and just the gravity of bringing the brush down. And I mean, that he couldn't brush his hair. It was literally gravity.
Ricky began physical therapy 3 days a week.
If I couldn't, it wasn't going to be because I didn't try. And I was going to give it my all to get back to where I needed to be.
He said a doctor told him he might never run again. Instead, Ricky set a goal of doing another Ironman.
It was a big mountain. It was months and months of determination and hard work to come back. I set a goal that at 1 year of coming off ECMO, I was going to do a 10-mile run.
Way to go, Ricky! Yay!
He accomplished his run in 2020, ending here at Selwood Park.
I did it. It was slow, but I did it.
You got this, Ricky!
2 years later, he completed a full Ironman in the rain in Wisconsin, a remarkable accomplishment.
It gets emotional just thinking about where I've been and gotten back to where I was actually competing, for an Ironman. And, just the gratitude that I had for being able to be there and God giving me the strength to come back.
Now, 4 years after the fall and nearly dying, Ricky can barely speak about the medical team that pulled him back from the brink.
Just,
Some feelings are just too big for words.
sorry. Just can't thank the doctors and nurses and Emmanuel.
We just had a really good team at Emmanuel. I mean, the nurses really carried our burden. The night that everything came to a head, Renee was our nurse, and I mean, she was crying with us. I mean, they were just a part of everything.
Just awesome.
Ricky did well enough in that Wisconsin race to qualify for the World Ironman Championships in France.
But to be able to come back and do an Ironman after, being so close to death, I'm really proud of that. And then, being able to go to Nice is kind of icing on the cake, to be able to say that I've been to the World Championship.
And I'll tell you, it was so inspiring to meet Ricky and Sharon and to hear their story. And hopefully it'll remind you that when you're going through tough times, it's best to keep going. People really do make it to the other side of that hardship. Way to go, Ricky.